All right, so now let's look at our first introduction to a stack passing situation, where a partner puts me up in what John calls a plow. Okay, there are a few different situations we can find ourselves in here, whether she's in front of me, whether she's outflanking me, whether she's behind me. This is a very useful situation where she can put my shoulders over my hips, completely immobilize me, and not only create passing danger, create leg lock danger, create back exposure. There's a bunch of things that she can do from here, so it's very wise for her to start putting me in these positions. Most of the time, just so you guys understand, these stack passing positions come from any time my partner's heels and feet are higher than her knees. Okay, so she's in a guard like so. If I feel like she's here, I'll never stack her. The second I start to go to her around, though, she starts to raise her legs and high leg over, for example, and the feet come high. I can start to stack her and put her feet down to the ground. Okay, if I go to pass from north-south, if she tries to start high legging over and bringing legs in, I can start stacking her like so. Okay, so there's many ways that we can end up in these situations, and it's very wise for her or our opponent to start moving into these positions because they can create submission attacks on you. They can create positional advances where they pass your guard, and they can also create back exposure. Okay, and the whole time you're basically in a situation where if you're exhausted, your entire diaphragm's being compressed, it's exhausting to move from here, and you just feel like, okay, I don't want to be here. I can't move from here. I have no offense from here. And the whole time I have to worry about my legs getting attacked. I have to worry about my guard getting passed or my back getting taken. And you just feel like, okay, I need to get out of this position. How can I do it? All right, so let's look at a little overview of what my opponent's trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to accomplish as far as guard passing from these situations. First and foremost, my partner wants to pin my feet to the floor and keep my hips over my head. Okay, if she can do that and she can keep my hips directly over my head and shoulders, she's going to be in a good spot. The further my hips drift away from my head and shoulders and down towards the floor, the more chance I have of recovering. But the further she brings my hips towards my head and over my shoulders, the easier it's going to be for her. Okay, and even more so than just getting my feet to the floor, if she can go the extra mile and push my knees to the floor and truly get my hips over my head, this is going to be tough for me to start moving from here. Okay, so our ultimate goal is to bring my knees to the floor above my head, or at least one knee to the floor above my head. Okay, she's always going to be looking eventually after she puts feet to the floor to either pass directly to north-south or pass to side control. All right, these are your two options. There's obviously back takes and submissions we can do from here, but that's not, we're talking about guard retention. All right, so ultimately, her goal is to first bring my feet up. Okay, once my feet are up, she's going to walk to an angle and pin my leg with one of her legs, usually, like so. Okay, so that now from here, she can start either passing to north-south, pommeling hands inside, and now the leg slips off. She's still in the inside position. Or if she's in front of me, for example, and she stacks me, she can move to a tight waist. And now from here, she can pull my hips down to the floor, and she can start passing into side control. Or if I go to turn, she can create back exposure. Okay? So her goals are to get my feet pinned to the floor with my hips over my head, and then either walk to a situation where she can pommel to a side control, usually by controlling my hips, or walk to a north-south, usually by pommeling hands inside and stealing the inside position. Okay, my goals are going to be, obviously, to get into a situation where I can put my partner back in front of me and my hips aren't over my head, right? So the things I'm looking for is to be constantly grip fighting and constantly trying to get my knees back inside my partner's legs so I can look to re-guard and counterattack. And I'm always looking to be constantly grip fighting to strip either arms or hands off my legs, okay? So if she starts stacking me, my feet and my knees are pointing towards the floor. Right? So there's no way that I'm going to be able to start doing anything offensive from here. But if she can start pinning my leg with her leg, for example, if I can start stripping grips, and if I can start getting into situations where I can off-balance her, I can start inverting, I can start going into situations where my feet come back inside, this is going to be good for me, okay? I'm always looking to clear grips off, whether she has hands on. I'm looking to strip grips, and now I'm looking to start posting at my partner, start walking backwards, pommeling legs back inside. Whether she has a leg on my leg, she's pinning me, like so. I'm always looking to find myself in situations where I can post, strip grips off my legs, and find ways to bring my legs back inside. Okay, so she's looking to keep my head, my hips over my head, and walk to either a side control situation and pass, or walk behind me to north-south and pass. All right, my goals are always to find ways to constantly strip grips and to get my knees and my feet to point towards her again so I can put her back in front of me, okay? And obviously, if I can strip the grips and get my knees and feet to point towards her, my hips will no longer be directly over my head and shoulders. All right, so just a general question we should be asking ourselves and what we should be thinking about when we're dealing with someone who's exceptionally good at putting our feet up and above our head. When they're standing in front of us, is first and initially, how can I get my feet into a position where they're lower than my knees? Okay, so if I know someone's very good at stacking from here, I'll never play in a position like this. Okay, because now she can just come forward and she can stack me. All right, and you have to understand that there are pluses and minuses, there's pros and cons to playing with feet up versus feet down. If I had feet up like so, it's going to be incredibly hard for my partner to start hitting Toreandas on me. Because when she goes to outflank me from here, I can always follow with my feet and follow my partner very, very easily. If my feet are down like so and she goes to Toreando, it's going to be hard now. I have to bring my feet up first to recover. Okay? So while it's harder for her to hit Toreandos and outflank me when my feet are high, it's easier for her to stack me. Like so. Okay? And when my feet are low, it's harder for her to stack me, but it's easy for her to Toreando. Okay, if you notice, actually in my first match against Keenan, the whole thing we worked on to deal with his guard was stacking, because Keenan always plays like this, okay, or something somewhere along these lines. So my whole game, for my first Keenan fight in that hour, 45-minute long match, was to stack him and wear him out over time. And in my case, I wasn't trying to pass him, I was trying to submit him, so I used the stacks to go and enter into his legs, okay? So the question is, for me, how can I pommel into a position where I can get my feet lower than my knees? If she can get my feet higher than my knees, she's going to be winning from here. So the second she goes to start bringing my feet up, I'm asking myself, how can I pommel my legs to a position where my feet are lower than my knees? Okay? Provided she can get my feet higher than my knees, and I start to get into a situation where I'm stacked, then I should be asking myself, okay, what can I do to start grip fighting against my partner and getting myself into a situation where I can bring my hips back down to the floor? All right, so the first thing is, how can I keep my hips low with my feet lower than my knees? The second thing is, if she gets me into a situation where I'm stacked, now I should be asking, the vision you should have in mind is, how can I strip my partner's grips in various ways, pommel legs, and then get my hips back to the floor with my partner in front of me, okay? If you can think about this, and you just have these goals in mind of, how can I keep my feet lower than my knees to deal with a good stack passer? And if I do get stacked, how can I constantly grip fight and get my hips back down to the floor? Okay, the whole thing with my partner trying to stack me is elevating my hips over my shoulders. All right, so if you can think about this, and you have a vision of where you're trying to go, everything becomes much easier. And it becomes much easier to achieve your goals when you have a vision of, okay, these are the main things I should be thinking about. I'm in this position. How can I achieve these goals? All right, so we have someone who's front-facing, someone who's directly in front of us. How can we avoid them initially getting our legs up high? Okay, obviously we can keep our feet lower than our knees, but the question is, what happens if my feet start to get elevated above my knees? How can I pommel my legs and shoulder walk backwards? Okay, so she gets into a situation where she gets one leg up, and now a second leg comes up, and now she starts walking into a situation where she starts driving my legs up. All right. Now, there's going to be a critical point where I can walk backwards and pommel my legs, and there's going to be a critical point where it's too late, okay? As she starts to bring my legs up high, from this situation, as she goes to start walking, I'm going to look to immediately bring my hips up and off the floor. All right, what I want is for my body to form a straight line. What she wants is to fold my body in half at the waist, okay? So what I want to do is engage my hips, and I want to make her carry my weight. So as she goes to start lifting my legs, instead of just having my legs come up and over my head, I want to back heel with my legs, bringing my feet down towards the floor so my hips come up off the ground. Okay, so as she goes to start lifting my feet, I come into a situation like so. Now, as she goes to start bringing my shoulders backwards, if I just stay here and my shoulders don't move, then she just pushes my hips over my head. So as she goes to start bringing my legs up and over, I just shoulder walk backwards. Like so. Okay? Now, obviously, she's standing and I'm grounded. So I can't shoulder walk as fast as she can walk with her feet. So if she just starts walking quickly towards my head, she's going to beat me. All right? So I have to walk backwards on my shoulders, which is only going to give me a few seconds of time, and then my feet are going to be up all over my head anyways. So what I have to focus on is pommeling my legs as this is happening, okay? So as she goes to start bringing my legs up, my heels come down, my hips come up, and now from here, I start pommeling my legs into a situation where they're safe, and now I start grabbing my partner's ankle so she can't lift me any higher. So she goes to grab my ankle, my feet start coming high, and from here, I feel like I'm going to start getting beat. From this situation, she has 2 V-grips. I'm immediately back heeling and bringing my hips up like so, okay? As my hips come up and she goes to start walking me, I just walk backwards, and the whole time I'm looking to pommel inside and either go inside a bicep where she goes to V-grip and it's hard, or I go inside my partner's legs. So now as she goes to start pushing this leg up, I can start inverting into my partner's legs, off balancing her, and going into my own attacks. Okay? So we're playing a game here where I'm pommeling the legs. She goes to get my feet up, and from here I feel like, okay, I'm going to start getting beat. Okay? The second I see this, it's a shoulder walk and a leg pommel. We pommel the legs inside, and now we're ready to go. Okay? I'm always pommeling towards my partner's center line. What I don't want is to go out in this direction towards the strength of the grip, which is the 4 fingers. If I try to pommel out in this direction, my legs split, it's harder for me to clear the grip, and it gives my partner a huge opportunity to start dropping into tight passes and knee sliding past my guard if my legs are open. So I always close my legs towards the center line. So as I bring my legs through, I go to pommel. When she goes to knee slide from here, she can't. All right? So my hips come up, my heels come down towards the floor. As she goes to start lifting me, I just shoulder walk backwards and pommel the legs back to the inside and get control of one of my partner's ankles if I can. Okay? That's initially just stopping the stack when my partner's in front of me. Obviously, if you can keep your feet below your knees, there's no danger of a stack. But if your partner does start to elevate your feet up and over the head, straighten your body, engage your hips, bring your heels down towards the floor, and shoulder walk backwards as you pommel your legs back to the inside. All right, so this time my partner puts my feet on the floor, but she stays in front of me for the time being. Okay, so before she can outflank me. So she gets my feet to the floor, and she stays in front of me, like so. What can I do from here? All right, what you see a lot of the time people try to do is they try to push your partner's hand straight up towards the ceiling. Okay, she has all of her weight on me from here. So when I go to push my partner's arm straight up, you're pushing into the weight of your partner's body. This is never going to work. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking to push my partner's hand along my leg so that I push in the same line, my legs pointing, like so. So that from here, when she goes to keep a strong grip, I push the hand out like so. Now, from this position, I'm going to look to bring my knee inside my own elbow, like so. Or my knee's inside my elbow inside my own knee, okay? So that my foot can come to the inside. Once my foot comes to the inside, I take my shoelaces across to my partner's far armpit. So I have a wedge in front of myself and my partner. When she goes to continue to stack me from here, I have one inside foot, and I can strip the second grip off. Now from here, depends on what she's going to do. She knows from here she's not going to be able to keep me stacked. So from here, it's pretty easy for me to start extending my hips and making space. The second I do that, come back. The second I do that, because my hips are no longer over my head, I can shoulder walk backwards, and from here we can bring our legs back inside and start going into our counterattacks. Okay? So my partner brings my feet up towards my head, and she stays in front of me for the time being. Whenever I see this from here, I can't go straight up. Okay? I have to go in a specific direction, which is along the line of my leg.
I strip one. Now my knee's inside my elbow, so my leg can't pommel. So I bring my knee outside, and I bring my foot inside. Like so. Now from here, as she goes to continue, I strip this second grip off, and now from here, if she stays this far up, there's no reason why I can't start inverting inside my partner's legs. Most of the time, she'll be sitting back towards my hips, like so, where I can start to create space by extending my hips, walking my shoulders backwards, and bringing my feet back inside. Okay? So one more time, as she goes to put my legs up high, I strip the grip with the correct directionality of force. I pommel the leg to the inside. Now she goes to continue to crush me. I strip the second grip. Now wherever she goes from here, she goes to move around. My feet are back inside. I have contact with my partner, and from here we can go into our attacks. Okay, so stripping the grips using a specific directionality of force going along the line of the legs. All right, now, there's going to be times where your partner chooses not to go with open hands, but with closed hands. Where she gets in front of me, and however she may do it, she locks her hands around my legs, and she chooses to start stacking me like so. Where now, she can start to lock her hands, pull my shoulders underneath my hips. So you see a very common way that people do this. Instead of driving the shoulders forwards, or the hips forwards, they just lock their hands. They have the luxury of locked hands. So she can stand up and she can physically pull my shoulders underneath my hips. Like so. And now stack me. And now she can start to move to a situation where she locks, or she opens her hands and she starts V-gripping my ankles and starts moving like so. So how can I address the locked hands before I get to a situation where she puts my feet on the floor and then she opens her hands and starts working? She goes into stack. The second I see this, again, she wants to fold my body in half. So my main goal, the second I see her starting to stack me, to avoid the stack altogether, is to straighten my body, like so. Okay. Now when she goes to bring my hips over my shoulders by pulling me in, she can do it, but it's going to take time. Okay. Whereas if I'm here, now she just stands and lifts, and now I'm beat. When I bring my hips up, she carries my body weight. So now when she goes to posture up, it's not impossible, but it's harder for her. When she goes, it's not an easy thing, okay? So my hips come up, and I bring my heels down on my partner's back. Okay, so now instead of just being dead weight here, where there's no pressure on her back at the long end of the lever, and she can just lift me easily from here. It's different when she's actively carrying my weight, okay? The reason why she's carrying my weight now is because my lower back comes off the floor. Right now, she's only carrying the weight of my legs. Right now, she's carrying the weight of everything besides my shoulders and head. Now, I take two hands with V-grips on my partner's wrist like so. And now, just as she goes to pull me up, is when I'm going to limp leg out. So right now, I have bent legs and I'm back heeling. The second she goes to start lifting, I just straighten my legs. I strip the grip by straightening my hands. And I just slide my hips back down towards the floor. And now we pommel across to one side. We can pommel inside with the other leg. We can pommel across with the other leg. Anything that gets contact with our partner and keeps her in front of us. So she locks her hands. The second I see this, I immediately move to here. This is my starting position. I address my partner's grips. And now as she goes to pull me up, I limp leg out. And now we can bring the legs inside and start to go into counterattacks. Okay? What I cannot accept is just being here. She pulls my hips over my head, and now I'm beat. So the second she goes in, as she goes to start lifting, we're here. And now once the knees are free, I'm out. What she needs is to keep her lock above my knees. So if I can get that lock below the knees, now this grip is useless. And now she goes to start stacking me. My feet just come inside. And I'm ready to work. All right, so now let's look at clearing grips initially when someone's behind you and they attempt to stack you. Okay, this can happen off of a Toreando, for example, where I Toreando and I Toreando to a situation where I'm past
my partner's shoulder line. She goes to throw the legs up to recover, and I pull the legs down. Okay? How can I initially stop her from just pinning my legs and negating my movement and putting me into a static position where my legs are above my head? All right? So the second I see she's behind me, the second I see her going to pull my legs down like so, I take a hand inside. Okay? It's going to be difficult for me to make meaningful grips with my hands out here. You see, I've run out of range of motion. It's hard for me to control and do anything from here. So as I see her going to push my feet down, I take a hand inside, and from here I strip a grip. Now again, I push in the same direction my leg follows, the same line my leg follows. So from here I slip the grip off, I post on my partner's upper body, and then from here I just rotate back in front of my partner, and we're ready to go. Okay? So the second I see my partner go to strip inside, if I go outside my knees, you see it's useless from here. I can't strip anything. So the second I see this, I take one hand inside. She goes to pull my hand down, or my legs down. We go inside and we grab here or here. Okay? If I see my legs, go ahead. If I see my legs are here, I usually grab like so. If I see my feet are down towards the floor, I usually grab like so. So if we have the legs are relatively up, I use a grip with my thumb facing the ceiling. If my legs are down towards the floor and it's late, I use a grip with my thumb down towards the floor. Okay? Now from here, I strip 1, I post 2, I rotate 3. So the second she goes to pull my legs down, she tore on those. I go to high leg, she goes to pull my legs down, and we strip. Now we come around, we post, we rotate, and we get control of our partner's ankles and make contact with our partner back in front of us. Okay? So stripping the grip from the inside, not the outside. Coming through, reaching, so I have a better ability to get to my partner's hands and wrist, stripping the grip off, and then rotating back in front of my partner. All right, let's talk about a situation where our partner has a stack and she uses one of her legs, specifically her shin, to pin my feet to the floor, okay, which gives her free hands to work with. Right? When we see this, there are 2 ways that my partner can, actually there's more than 2 ways. There's 2 main ways my partner can pin my shins to pass me, okay? So as she goes to bring everything up and over, she can go left versus right, where her left shin pins my right leg, like so. Or she can go right versus right, where her right leg pins my shin, like so. Okay? You have to understand there are 2 different goals in mind here. One goal is to pass the side control, and one goal is to pass the north-south. You have to be able to differentiate between these 2. Okay? First, we move to a situation where it's left versus right. Her goal from here is going to be to get a tight waist, pull my hips down, and move into a situation where she can pass to a top pin or create back exposure if the bottom player turns away. If she's right versus right, and we're in a situation like so, now the goal changes. Now I'm not going to use a tight waist, because then if I go into a tight waist, I have to move back to a left versus right situation. So I go into a situation instead where I go to pommel hands inside, so that I can get to north-south, and I can pass. Okay? You have to differentiate between these 2 and what my goals are for my opponent in each one. All right, so we're first going to start off with a situation where my partner's trying to achieve a tight waist and move to a side control. So she pins me down. Let me move in like so. Let's rotate so the camera can see this. Like so. Okay? When I see this, I know that my partner wants to get a strong tight waist on me. Okay? So she wants to shoot her hand to my hip, connect her shoulder to my hip on this side, and then move her leg out of the way and pull her elbow down to my hip and put my right hip on the floor. Okay? So my main concern is to address my partner's shoulder with a forehand grip. Okay? Why is this?
If she cannot get a tight waist, she cannot pass me into side control. So from this position, I come through and I post to my partner's shoulder. Now, when she goes to put a tight waist in, she can't get to my far hip. Now, as she goes to start trying to pass me from here, it's pretty easy for me to take a V grip with my right hand to my partner's ankle and strip this grip out and away. And from here, we can bring our hips down to the floor, go right into a scoop grip with an inverted knee, and from here we can go in and start attacking our partner's legs. Okay? So my partner's trying to pass to side control. The main thing she needs from here is a tight waist to pull my hips down to the floor. So I have to use a forehand grip with the V grip inside my partner's shoulder to deny that. So she pins my legs down, like so. From here, as she goes to get a tight waist, this is what she wants. Okay? If she gets a tight waist and she goes to pull my hips down, it's going to be hard for me to recover from here. I'm basically going to have to give basically going to have to give up a pass where I turn into her and I get my elbow back in, or as she goes to pull my my hips down to the floor, I'm going to have to go into a Granby where I create back exposure here and my elbow stays out and over here. If I can get my elbow back inside my partner's shoulder and across her center line, there's no back exposure. Okay? If my partner goes to start pulling my hip down and I go to start rolling, my partner from here can start to move to a backhanded arm, where if I go to roll, she can move this arm up to here. She can lock over my shoulder with her right arm. And as I go to roll, I roll into a situation where she takes my back. Okay, so I don't want to give up back exposure. Like I said, nothing we're doing today is going to rely on me creating back exposure to escape. So if I find myself in a situation where my partner has a tight waist, I'll just concede bottom side control and then escape from there later. What I don't want to happen is we're in a position like this. I go to pull the hips down. If she can get her elbow across my center line, the line that draws my body apart, she's in a top pin. Then she can recover later because she can fight to the inside position. But if I go to pull the hips down and she goes to start rolling, and now she goes to start rolling over her shoulder to recover, what she wants is to roll over the shoulders to Granby, and then I get rolled through and she Granby's out. But there is some back exposure here. So if we're here, she's stacked. If I go to pull the hips down and she goes to roll, I can follow the Granby and create back exposure. So you have to understand that she can escape from here, but it's risky because she is creating back exposure. A much smarter option for her, if she feels a tight waist does come in, is just to concede the pass and recover later. Okay, so we're not going to work on Granbying out and escaping once our back is exposed. We're just going to work on initially not letting her get to a tight waist. So she comes in, she pins the leg up like so. From here, we go inside V grip on the shoulder. When she goes to shoot a deep tight waist in, it's impossible because I have a straightened arm. So when she goes to shoot that tight waist in, she can't. Now from here, I go V grip. When she goes to keep this knee in place, strong, I just extend and I move my leg out and away. Because there's no weight on this knee, it's easy for me to extend my arm out and away. Okay? The reason why it's hard for her to put weight on this knee is because of the V grip on this shoulder is preventing her from moving her head and her body weight out on top of this knee. Here, if I just go in and try to push her leg off and she drops this knee down heavy, it's going to be impossible. So what I need is I need this V grip to keep her head out where it is right now. If her head comes over mine, it's going to be difficult for me to clear this leg. So I V grip. Now when she goes to bring her head back over mine, it's not an easy thing because I have the inside thumb position. When she goes to keep heavy with her left knee, I just straighten with the V grip. And now from here, I'm ready to go into all kinds of counterattacks, sweeps, submissions, what have you. Okay? So that's our first of two different leg positions where she's looking to get a tight waist and pass me into side control.
All right, so now we looked at the first pin that my partner can keep me stacked with, as far as pinning her shin in the back of my hamstring. Let's look at the second possible pin. Okay, where now instead of trying to move into a side control, she's trying to move to a north-south. So it's her right leg versus my right leg. Okay, so instead of having her left leg outside of my right leg, she has her right leg inside of my right leg, like so. Where now her goal's gonna be to pommel her hands inside, like so that now she can lift my hips forward to the inside position and pass me into north-south. Okay? Whenever I see this, again, we're just fighting for inside position here. Okay, just like before, we went V-grip inside position, V-grip on the ankle inside position, and then we inverted the knee to come inside. All right, this is gonna be about stopping her hand from pommeling inside when she has the inside leg position. So she pins my legs down, like so. She goes inside with the shin, like so. Whenever I see this, I need to connect my elbow to my own rib, to my own hip. My elbow and forearm to my own hip. When she goes to pommel her hand inside, through like so, you notice my hand always has, can they see this? My hand always has the inside position. If her hand can pommel inside my hand like so, this is going to be no good. So my hand always has the inside position. When she goes to pommel that hand through, it's impossible. She can only go outside my hand. And now as she goes outside my hand, notice I move to a forearm post. So when she goes to pommel that hand in, I go forearm post. Now the second hand goes to come in, like so. And now as she goes to start taking her leg off to start to pass me, my one knee comes inside. Now when she goes to drive forwards, I have one knee inside. I can bring a second knee inside, and then we can start all of our inversions back into front and center and go into our attacks. Okay? So it all starts with the inside hand position. If at any point your partner gets a hand inside, now I'm going to be losing this battle from here. Okay? The second the hand comes inside, the other opposite hand pommels in, and now when I go to recover, she just takes that leg off, she shoots her shoulders forward, and you're losing every time. Okay? So my goal is to win the battle for inside hand position. Right now there's no post. I have no inside position. So I connect my elbow to my own hip, so that when she goes to shoot in, I move to a forearm post with a lat grip, like so. This gives me the ability to pommel my knee back to the inside. Okay? So this one piece of inside position is going to be the difference between you recovering and you getting past. Okay? So we come through. She stacks me. She pins the shin down. I connect my elbow to my hip. When she goes to pommel inside, she can't. She can only go outside, and this is all I want. Now, as she goes to start throwing her second hand in, which was always common, she thinks she has the inside position, which she does relative to my legs, but she doesn't relative to my left elbow. So now she's winning the battle for inside position. When she goes to throw my hips forward and take the leg off, as she goes to bring everything inside, because of all the movement with the leg coming around, with the leg coming off, and her throwing her body forwards, I can always bring a knee inside. Okay, and now from here, when I have one knee inside, it's pretty easy. As she goes to start passing me, to bring a second knee inside, and then start to put her back in front of me. Okay, so the battle here is with the inside elbow position relative to your partner's hand. If your partner can get the inside leg position, which she has because she's pinning you from the inside, and the inside hand position, you're going to get beat every single time. All right, so this is going to be actually closing out stack passing situations and closing out loose passing versus supine altogether. Just so we have a little bit of a kind of a collection of what we're talking about here through all these situations. Think about when your opponent initially starts to try to stack you, just pommeling your feet to a situation where your feet are lower than your knees. Okay, that's your first step. then you're somewhere in the middle where, okay, you're not completely folded in half yet, but your feet are getting elevated above your knees and they're starting to come above your head. Straighten your body and address the grips by pommeling your legs, putting weight on your partner, and denying them the ability to fold your body in half. Okay, so you straighten the hips, and if they have locked hands, you address the wrists and you look to limp leg out. Or if they have open hands and you can pommel your legs, you can pommel your legs as you shoulder walk backwards, and then from there you can create a connection to your partner and go into counterattacks. Okay, in the event that they fully stack you, okay, their goal is always going to be to move to a situation where they can flank you. So if they initially stack you and you can strip the grips right away while they're in front of you, even better for you. But they start to outflank you and you start using shin pins, where they either pin on the outside and look to get a tight waist, or they look to pin on the inside and move to north-south. You have to be able to recognize which pin they're using with their legs and what their goals are. And once you understand that, then you can recognize what you have to do to in turn retain your guard and go into counterattacks. Okay? If they're trying to put a tight waist on and pass you like that, the whole thing is going to be get to a tight waist, pin the hip on the floor. So my goal is to deny them the tight waist by using an inside thumb post on your shoulder with the forehand post. Okay? If they can't get to the tight waist, they can't move their head, it's going to be difficult for them to do anything, and they can't put weight on the knee, so you can easily V-grip the ankle, start to invert the knee, and go into attacks. All right? If they're in a situation where they're trying to pass the north-south and they have the inside leg position, then it all comes down to that one single piece of inside position. Their hand and elbow versus your hand and elbow. If your elbow is connected to your hip and they shoot their hand through in the outside position, you're going to win and recover. If you're lazy with your elbow position and they shoot through and they create that space, they win the battle for inside position. Because they're already winning the battle of inside position with the feet and their 2 feet are inside yours, you don't have any inside knee position relative to their shoulders. So if their hand comes in, their feet are already inside. Because their feet are already inside, their hand comes inside, the second hand comes inside, they win the battle for inside position, and then you're passed before you know it. Okay, so you have to be able to recognize first how I can keep my feet lower than my knees to avoid the stack, and then when your feet start to come over your head, how I can avoid getting completely folded in half. And if I do get folded completely in half, how can I avoid getting completely passed by understanding the difference between my partner using an outside shin pin and using an inside shin pin. All right, so now we're going to move on to body locking. Okay, now body locking is interesting because when you look at body locking and you're thinking to yourself, if the person's tight passing, isn't their goal to come forward and control the head and shoulders? And then you think, well, if I have a body lock, I have no control over the head and shoulders. I'm only controlling the hips. Okay, this is true. All right, let's take a look at the passing element of body locks and understand what we're eventually trying to do. When I look to use body locks, okay, I can pass the body locks in 2 different ways. I can stay in the body lock and control the hips and pass, or I can use the body lock to climb up the body from the hips to the head and shoulders. Okay, so in general, when you're using a body lock to pass, you have more control over the hips and it's easier to get past your partner's legs. Okay, and technically pass and score points if you're in a point situation. And pass your partner's guard. Okay, you saw this in the Hamlo match where I easily pass his guard because I had control of the hips and I can score with the body lock pass. Okay, the problem is after you get past the legs and you score a guard pass, it's hard to then climb to the upper body and get to the head and shoulders. Okay, so while you have a much easier time passing usually when you're just controlling the hips, you have a harder time actually working to a submission and getting control of your partner's upper body after you pass the legs. Okay. Another way that you can use body lock passing is to force your partner into a half guard, climb your way up the body, and then control your partner's head and shoulders. Okay. So if I'm trying to get to a half guard, for example, and my partner's in a seated guard, it's going to be hard from here. Right. Even if I force her down to a situation where I put her on her back, I still have to get past my partner's top leg. I still have to get past my partner's cross shoulder post, and you feel like you're losing the battle for inside position here. So one of the things I can do with a body lock is I can start with a body lock where I come like so. I start to control my partner's hips Then I walk past my partner's leg, I step over into half guard, and now you see I'm past my partner's cross shoulder post, and I'm past my partner's top leg as well. All right, so now I have a choice. I can either pass to the body lock, okay, where it's going to be easy to pass to the body lock because my partner can't move their hips. Okay, their hips are completely bent. So it's going to be easy for me to pass to the body lock, but if I do pass to the body lock and I stay with this hand position, it's going to be hard for me to get to the upper body now. Okay, because now, yes, I'm technically past her guard, but I can't really do anything with this until I control the head and the shoulders. So if she brings her hands inside and elbows inside, and when I go to start moving into the upper body, she makes space, and now she's gone. Okay? Contrast this with the body lock where I start at the hips, like so. I move into half guard, and then I move to the upper body. Okay? Now, it's going to be harder to pass my partner's guard because I have less control of my partner's hips. So if she starts to move around and move her hips side to side, or starts to bridge, or what have you, she can move her hips much more readily. Okay, but I have control of my partner's head and arm, so I'm in a great passing position from here. And once I pass my partner's guard, I have control of the head and arm, and I don't need to make the switch to upper body inside position after I pass my partner's guard. So in general, from a passing standpoint, you can have two ways of passing with a body lock. Either right with the body lock, where you pass the legs first, and then you have to get to the upper body after you pass the legs, which it's easier to pass, but harder to actually move forward after you pass the legs. Or you put yourself in a position where you come forward towards your partner's, or use a body lock to flatten your partner out into half guard, then you come forward towards the head and the arm, and you're not in as good of a passing position, but you're still in a great passing position. And when you do pass your partner's legs, then you already have control of the head and arm, so you can start working right into submissions. Okay, so as far as just an overview of body lock passing, this is what my partner's looking for when she passes. To body lock me, either pass right from there, or to start moving into a situation where she can force me into a half guard, and then move to the upper body after that. Right, and you see this is a staple of my game, a staple of Nikki Rod's game. It's going to be a staple of Craig and Nikki Ryan's game as well when they start using it in competition. It is already, you just haven't seen it yet. But you've seen me, I've been doing it for years. Nicky Rogers started doing it. He just had success with it against Yuri. Body lock is a very, very robust way of passing, and a great way of locking down your partner's hips and passing like that, or moving into a situation where you can climb up the body to upper body inside position, and then work from there. Right, and you see plenty of examples of what I'm talking about. If you look at the match with me and Hamelo, I used the body lock to easily pass, but then I couldn't get to the upper body. If you see Nicky Rod versus Yuri, you see a situation where I couldn't, where he actually got past his legs, but then he went to go start attacking him, and he couldn't get the upper body inside position, and Yuri would recover every time. Okay, and then he contrasts this with the match like me versus Wagner, where I use a body lock initially to flatten him out into a half guard, and then I start moving to upper body control. That way, when I pass him, there's no escape, and I can immediately start with my follow-up attacks. Okay, because there's many examples you can find of this, with our team in competition matches. But this is a general introduction. This is what my partner's, looking to use body locks for: to control the hips and pass, or to use a body lock to climb to get to the upper body. All right, so let's look at a general overview of what I'm trying to accomplish, what my partner's trying to accomplish. Okay, when she's in front of me, she's looking to come forward and lock her hands in various ways. Okay, there's plenty of different ways that she can lock, and we're going to review her locking in all these different situations. Right, she can lock with a double under situation where both of her arms come under my arms, like so, and she locks. She can lock in a way where she has one under and one over, where she traps an arm inside, and she locks. She can lock with two arms over, where she traps my arms and she locks. And she can lock with a tight waist, like so, with the elbow inside my knee with open hands, where she locks my hips in place with a tight waist, and then she uses an open elbow to start pinning my knee down and stepping into half guard. Okay, so there's specific ways my partner can lock the hands, and I have to be able to adjust accordingly relative to what way her hands are locked. Okay, she's ultimately looking to force me into a half guard. Right. So the first thing she's looking to do is to find a way to connect her hands behind my hips. Okay, whether it be with locked hands in various situations, or whether it be with a situation where she uses open hands and a tight waist to put an elbow inside. Okay. Once she locks her hands, her goal then is to flatten me out. Okay. What she wants to do is to put my hips flat on the floor. Okay, with square relative to the floor and ceiling. So as she goes to start pulling me in, she wants to flatten me out, pull my hips in, or my butt into my heels first, then flatten me out like so. Okay, so now that I'm flat, it's going to be difficult for me to start moving my hips around. Then she wants to start looking to clear my legs. Right now I have 2 feet inside. She wants to look to get at least 1 foot inside, if not 2. So she looks to sprawl her leg back, and she gets 1 leg inside. If I'm naive and I allow my foot to drift to the outside, no, sprawl this leg. If I'm naive and I allow my second foot to come to the outside position, this is even better for her. Okay, but most of the time you'll find yourself in a situation where she sprawls past her 1 leg, then she goes to bring the knee in, she steps over into a half guard, and now she flattens me out. Right? Now she's going to either look to pass from here, as we mentioned before, or she's going to look to move to an upper body, either with double underhooks, with a cross face and an underhook, and start controlling my upper body and passing from here. So her goals are to lock the hands, to flatten me out and immobilize my hips, to get at least 1 leg to the inside position so she can step over into a half guard, and then make a choice of either passing with the body lock and fighting to the upper body second, or coming forward, controlling the head and shoulders first, and then passing the legs. Okay, my goals initially are to stop my partner from locking hands in various ways. Okay, and we're going to look at many ways that we can do this. So if I can stop her from locking her hands initially, we can immediately go into attacks. Because as she goes to lock her hands, if I can stop her from locking the hands, when she goes to lock now, there's a wedge in front of her body, for example. Now she's overextended, and we can immediately go into counterattacks. So if we can stop our partner from locking hands initially, this is going to obviously be great for us. Okay. Once my partner does lock her hands, then our goal is to immediately off-balance my partner by falling to 1 hip or the other. What she wants, again, is to keep my hips square relative to the floor and ceiling. Okay. What I want is to move to 1 hip or the other. So the second my partner locks the hands and she goes to start driving forward and putting me down, I want to immediately look to start falling to a hip to off-balance my partner, to elicit a post by my partner, where now from here I can start to create separation in the hands, punch in underhooks, or go into other counters that you like. Okay. If I find myself in a situation where my partner locks the hands and I cannot get to one of my hips and she does flatten me out, then I'm always looking to find myself in a situation where I can forward shift my partner and immediately create an angle. Okay, what I need is an angular advantage where I fall to 1 hip or the other to immediately off balance them. I can't just be square the whole time. Okay, so if I find my partner does flatten me out, I'm going to look to forward shift, and then from here immediately go into all of my attacks. Okay, the specific ways that we can do this depending on what your partner's hand position is. If I find my partner flattens me out, and from here I feel like I cannot forward shift. Okay, this is where you see a lot of stalemates happen, where I can't sit forward to off balance my partner, but my partner can't quite step into a half guard. Okay, what you're going to see from here is a situation where my partner's trying to step over a knee, and if I can't forward shift, I have to keep my feet inside, and I have to block my partner from stepping over into half guard. So we do the opposite side, so sprawl back. Okay, so she sprawled back. I look to keep my feet inside the best I can, and when she goes to step over my knee into a half guard, I block. My partner will naturally start to try more and more of her options, start stepping over, and as she goes to start squaring her hips and moving around, that gives me an opportunity on her to forward shift when she starts to move around. Because I take advantage of her movement and her blading of the hips and moving around and raising and lowering the hips to find timing to forward shift, where now I can go into my attacks from here. Okay, and at worst case scenario, she body locks and she moves into a half guard from here. Then we have to look at ways of recovering butterfly hooks, butterfly half guard, and we have to look at what our partner is doing. Okay, if our partner is looking to move to the upper body, we have to keep inside position and then recover. If my partner's staying in the body lock, it's going to be hard because she can easily get past the legs from here, but looking to pommel back to the inside position, getting my knees back in, forward shifting, and then working from there. Okay, so a general overview of what my partner's trying to do, what I'm trying to do, versus what I'm trying to do. My partner's trying to lock the hands, pin my hips square, and step into a half guard. Okay, what I'm trying to do is avoid the hands locking. That's the first and the earliest stages. If the hands do lock, immediately off balancing to unlock the hands, so to get my partner obviously swept over to bottom position, and staying in a seated position so I can constantly go into off balances. All right, if she can flatten me out, keep my hips square, put my shoulders on the floor, and then step to half guard, she's going to be in the driver's seat. If I can stay seated, constantly off balancing and forcing my partner to post hands out, then I'll be in the driver's seat. All right, so I know that was a lot of information. Let's just think about when we're playing a retention, the goal in mind, my partner's body locking me, is to retain my guard and go into counterattacks. Okay, what should I be asking myself when my partner locks the hands and she's looking to pass me from here? Just think about constantly creating angle. Okay, you have to be able to stay seated and create angle. If you can do these two things, you'll be successful. Okay, if you cannot do these two things and your partner flattens you out and controls your hips square, it's going to be an issue. Okay, so when I'm in this situation and my partner locks the hands, first obviously is how can I avoid my partner locking their hands around my hips? Okay, but assuming your partner does lock their hands around the hips, the question you should be asking yourself is, how can I get and stay in a seated position and create an angular advantage where I can fall from one hip or the other and force my partner to post a hand, or if they don't post a hand, sweep them into bottom position. Okay, if you have a goal in mind of getting and staying to a seated position, and then as your partner goes to flatten you out, falling and rocking from one hip to the other, everything will be a lot easier. Okay, you can't be in a situation where you don't know what your goals are, you don't know what you're trying to accomplish. Your partner locks in, and then next thing you know, before you know it, you're flattened out of bottom half guard, and you're halfway, and your partner's halfway to a pass. Okay, so just think about getting and staying in a seated position and getting to an angle. All right, let's look at ways that we can stop our partner from locking the hands. Okay, there are, in general, two different ways that we can stop our partner from getting around the hips and closing the hands together. Right. The first is by controlling my partner's arms. Okay, in some way, and you have to understand that your partner can choose to be kneeling versus seated. She can also choose to be standing versus seated. Okay, where she can start playing here where she's loose passing, and now as she goes to come forward and lock a body lock, she can come in and she can start moving into tight passing. So you have to understand that I talked about in the beginning that we would cover this in the seated versus tight passing. Your partner can go from a situation where she's loose passing versus a seated guard, and she can drop down and go right into a body lock. Okay, so you have to be ready for this as your partner is moving up and down. Right? If my partner's standing, for example, I know she's a good body locker, we'll come to a situation where I'll take it 2-on-1. Where now when she goes to lock the body, she can never lock into a body lock because I have control of my partner's hands. Okay? So as she goes to start moving around from here, whether it's here, whether it's here, whether it's here, whether it's here, she can never actually get a lock of the hand. Same thing on the knees. If I can control my partner's hands in some way, when she goes to lock in the body, she can't do it. Okay? So the first way I can stop my partner from actually controlling my hips with a body lock is by controlling my partner's hands. All right? We talked about this in the seated guard instructional, where I talked about in the beginning, the person who dominates the grip fighting exchanges will dominate the pace of the match. And it's no different here. Okay? If I can dominate the grip fighting exchanges, I'll dominate the match. So if I can control my partner at the hands, at the arms with 2-on-1s or various 1-on-1 situations, and she can't lock her hands, she can never body lock me. Okay. The second is by putting so much mass in between myself and my partner through inside position that she can't actually get close enough to lock her hands. Okay. So as she goes to start coming in and body locking me right now, if she can get her elbows inside my knees and come forward, then she can lock her hands. But if I can put so much mass between myself and my partner, where as she goes to come forward, now she can't actually physically lock her hands. Okay. When she goes to come forwards, she can't actually physically lock her hands because I have the inside position. When she goes to come forwards, she can't actually physically lock her hands because I have the inside position. When she goes to come forwards, she can't actually lock her hands because I have the inside position. When she goes to come forward, she can't actually lock her hands because I have the inside position. And there are many ways that we can achieve this. In general, I'm thinking about controlling my partner's hands so she can't actually shoot and lock her hands together. She can't get her hands close. Or two, putting so much mass between myself and my partner that she can't lock her hands. Okay, and even if she does lock her hands in a situation where I have the inside position, it's going to be useless. Okay, number one, we switch positions. If I'm actually able to lock my hands from this position, I can't actually do anything with this. Okay, number one, if you go against someone your own size, you're never going to be able to hold them here. Okay, if I lock my hands as tight as I can, I might be able to hold her here and try to extend. It's going to be tough. Okay, if you're going against like a teenage girl and you're like 270 pounds, you might be able to hold your partner in a situation like this. Actually, I'm feeling strong right now. Try to extend away. Okay, it's going to be tough. Okay, but even if you find yourself in a situation where you can hold your partner from here and you can lock the body, because she has so much inside position, I can't do anything from here. When I go to pass, I can never get past the legs, and the second I go to unlock my hands to move forward, she just steals the inside position. Okay, so even in a situation where you do lock your hands, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. Okay, so either controlling your partner's hands or putting so much mass between yourself and your partner with various ways of using inside position, posting on your partner's hips, posting on your partner's shoulders, putting knees in between. So much mass, having so much mass between yourself and your partner that you can't actually physically lock the hands. So if I can avoid the initial lock, everything is going to be a lot easier. Okay. What you can have is a situation where we just saw, I'm filming this, like I said, a week after Nikki Rudd versus Yuri. You can't have a situation where you just sit forward like Yuri with elbows like this, and then as she goes to come forward, I get body locked. Okay. You need to have the inside position. So as she goes to come forwards, I have the inside position and she can't actually make space to lock my hands. Okay. Or I have to have some kind of control of the hands. When she goes to come forward and lock, she can't actually do it. And then she gets overextended. Okay, this is the beauty of this. She goes to come forward and lock the hands. She gets overextended where now things start opening up for me. Or she gets overextended and now things start opening up for me. Okay. So avoiding the initial lock by controlling hands with one-on-one or two-on-ones, or putting so much mass between yourself and your partner through inside position that they can't actually lock the hands around the hips. All right, so this time, my partner actually manages to lock the hands, whether it's with double unders and over unders, double overs, or she gets to a tight waist. All right, let's look at how we can go into immediate off balances with each of these locks. Okay, so first, my partner comes under both of my arms, and she manages to lock her hands like so. Okay. Again, what I need is angle. So the first thing I'm going to look for is immediately I'm going to move to an angle. Now, just as we spoke about in the seated instructional, my goal with any sumigaeshi is to get my partner's forehead to the floor. Okay. If I can do this, I'm going to be in a very good situation from here, a very good spot from here. All right. So her goal is to keep her head relatively centered, pull me in, and then drive me forwards and flatten me out. Okay. So the second I see this, I'm immediately going to take one hand to my partner's head, doesn't matter which one. I'm going to bat her head off to a side, like so. So that my elbow steals the inside position relative to her shoulder. I go to the other side, put an elbow inside. Now from here, when she goes to drive forwards, it's a relatively easy thing for me to fall to a hip. Even if she sucks me in from here, I can fall to a hip. Okay? Because now her head's off center. If she can keep her head on center and pull me in, it's hard for me to start moving to hips. And then as she goes to suck me in, I go to fall, and I get to a hip, but then she walks back the other way, and I'm flattened out. So the second I see my partner lock hands, and I have two hands free, we put a hand to my partner's collar, and we bat the head over an elbow. So that now from here, we can look to immediately cover my partner's arm, and now because she's overextended, she has no base of support. When she goes to unlock her hands now, it's not easy. And now we can start a Sumigashi action out and over to the side, where we can take our partner over and go into immediate, not only retention, but immediately into counter attacks. Okay? I'm not going to go into the mechanics on Sumigashis because we've already went over that in the student instruction. We'll be here for another 6 hours if I start doing that. But just get a general idea, when our partner locks with 2 hands underneath my arms, we come through, and our goal is to immediately get our partner's head off center. 1 or 2. Okay? And if I can do that, everything will be much easier. Right? Now there's different ways to do this. You can use a collar tie, like so. You can use an overhook, like so, where you have a whizzer pressure, put your partner's head out and over. There's many ways to do this, right? But you have to understand your goal always remains the same. Get your partner's head off center and over one of her elbows. If I can do this, I'll be in great shape, okay? Contrast this with a situation where my partner locks and we have one hand under and one hand over, okay? Whenever we get into a situation like so, my partner knows she has to crush the underhook. What she can't have is me hiking this underhook up high. So if she can put weight down on her left elbow, like so, now pull me in. Now my inside position with my hand actually becomes a liability. Because yes, I have the inside position, but my hand's crushed against my own body. So when I go to use this underhook, it ends up just being my hand being stuck, okay? So the second I see my partner go to lock her hands and crush my arm under like so, I'm immediately going to look to fall again to a hip, and I'm going to look to shoot this arm up towards my partner's far shoulder, okay? Now when I fall to a hip this time, I need to ensure that I can really get into a position where my right arm is useful. Okay, if I just fall to a hip, and I go to just lift this right arm up, her hands are locked. So you feel like you have no lifting ability. So as I go to fall to a hip, I take my left foot to the outside of my partner's knee. Okay, now you're asking yourself, why would I do that if I want to have the inside position? I make a trade-off between the inside foot position and the inside knee position. Right now I have the inside foot position, outside knee position. So I make a trade-off where I go outside foot position, inside knee position. This gives me the ability now to start lifting and bridging off of my left foot. And this is what will create a lifting action where I can get my underhook into a place where I can actually use it. So the second she goes to start driving forward and crushing me, I start lifting, and then you notice her hands come open, and I have a strong underhook now where we can start going into all of our counterattacks. So as she goes to lock over an arm, the second I see this, I immediately come here. Now, her goal is to keep her head below my shoulders and collarbones, okay? If she can do this, my underhook is useless. You contrast this with a situation where where her head is above my shoulders and collarbones, and now I have a strong underhook, okay? So the question is, how can I go from here to here? The answer is by falling to a hip and scooting underneath my partner as I lift her with this drive leg. So as she goes to start flattening out, I fall and I lift, okay? Even if I don't take my partner over, I have nothing to do with this hand. I want to cover so she can't post out. Even if I don't do that, you notice as she goes to start crushing me, you see the hands always come open because your partner has to post. Okay? So what it allows me to use this underhook effectively, not just have an underhook that's getting crushed against my body, is this drive leg. Okay? If she has 2 hands underneath, I can just fall and I can use my hands to off balance my partner's head. Here, it's going to be hard because now I'm forced in one direction. I can't push my partner's head across to this side, okay? Because now my partner can just go in and start to flatten me out. I have no ability to block my partner's hand on this side. If I try to Sumigashi, to this side, I don't have the ability to trap my partner's arm. So as I go to Sumigashi, I just fall and now my hand gets crushed. Okay, I'm in a situation where This is like the worst case scenario for me because now I can't pull my hand down. I can't do anything. All my body weight's on top of my arm. Okay? So when she locks over an arm, I'm pretty much limited to go to one side. All right? Whereas when she's under two arms, I have the option to go to either side, and she doesn't know which side I'm going to go to. So it's a good thing for her to lock over one of my arms because it forces me to go to one side now. She knows which side. So she can recover a little bit easier from here, but, you know, she has her hands locked and you're in a body lock, so what are you going to do? You have to start to go into your counters. So she goes in, I bring a foot to the outside, I get the inside knee position. Now from here, as I go to look to fall, I block my partner's arm, I look to scoot underneath my partner and lift with this left leg so that I can get my shoulder underneath my partner's armpit, and I can get my partner's head higher than my shoulders. Like so. And you get at least an initial off balance where you can get your underhook into a situation where you can actually use it, and you're not in a position where your partner is just crushing your arm against the body and then flattening you out. Okay? If at any point she can lock the hand in place, crush the underhook, and pull me to a position where my arm is underneath the body weight of both of us, this is going to be bad for me. This is going to be real bad for me. Okay? So what I want is to always be in a situation where either if she flattens me out, at least I'm square. All right? So this ensures that I can't try to Sumigaeshi right. If I go to Sumigaeshi right, that's what she wants. She's pulling the elbow down to crush my arm. So she knows I'm going in this direction. So if I just fall to a hip, she just pulls this elbow down, and then she flattens me out, and it's going to be hard. That's why I need this additional drive leg to start making those extra gains where I can off balance my partner, pull my partner into the situation where I can use my underhook, and then go into all guard advances. Okay? This time, our partner locks, and she goes double overhooks. She locks over my hands like so. Okay? When I see this is going to be tough for me. Okay? Because now, I can't Sumigaeshi to either side. If I fall to one side, she just crushes one arm together, and she has double overhooks, and she's completely crushed me. Okay? So falling to a hip isn't an option. Okay? This is an exception to the rule where I said I want to fall to one hip or the other. Okay? But nonetheless, I am still immediately off balancing. So the second I see this, I'm immediately going to look to throw myself under my partner. Okay? Again, what she wants is to be in this position with her head and her forehead underneath my shoulders and collarbone. Okay? What I want is to get her head above my shoulder line. In order to do this, I have to look to scoot underneath my partner. If my partner pulls me in and flattens me out, her head still stays in position. So what I want is to immediately, the second I feel the hands lock, I want to scoot my butt in towards my heels and just lift my partner over my head. Like so. So now I can get her head far and above my shoulders, and the hands have to lock and start facing. And now from here we can look to punch underhooks in and recover to various positions where we can attack. Okay? So the second I feel the hands come over, the second I feel this, you cannot wait. You have to immediately shoot yourself into a position where you throw yourself under your partner and you start to lift. Okay? The hands and the knees pull everything up and over the shoulders, and now you can start to go into your counter offense. Okay? So the second she comes in, I have my hands inside, and she realizes, okay, I can't get the inside position because the elbows aren't open. If I have an elbows open, she goes inside, like so. If I go one open, one closed, she goes over. If I have two closed and I'm being very disciplined here, my hands are low, she can go with the outside position initially, catch, and now she can lock both my hands to my body using the outside position. Whenever I see this and she goes to lock, we immediately come through, and now we're ready to go. Okay? So that's with the hands with double overs. This time she goes in with a tight waist, and she plays here. Her being successful with a tight waist is completely contingent upon her ability to keep an elbow inside my knee. Okay? So the second I see my partner go tight waist, I know this is coming next. All right? If my partner looks to start coming in and posting on my knee and pushing it down like this, it's pretty easy to strip the grip off. A good partner is always going to put an elbow inside the knee, drive you forward, Now walk back in a way to pull the knee down and then step over into half guard. Okay? The second I see a tight waist come in place, my whole thing is to address this elbow. Okay? The second I see this, I'm just going to take a V grip inside my partner's elbow. And now I'm just going to look to start falling down to a hip. From this position, I just V grip and keep everything in place. And now my leg shoots through. So she wants to bring it down and away from me. I bring it so far where it's going to be hard for her to step into half guard. What I can't have is resistance. From here, I'm pulling my knee up to my chest, and then she goes to pull it through, and now it gets caught between her legs. Okay, this is no good. Now I'm caught in half guard. So what I want is before she traps my leg between her two legs, I want to shoot my foot to the outside position and my knee to the inside position. Okay? So she goes tight waist. The second she goes to start knocking me down to the floor, I go V grip. Okay? Now, as she goes to start bringing me down to a hip, I just monitor my partner's hand and I keep it in place. So when she goes to pull my knee down, I can make space and I can monitor my partner's hand, my partner's elbow. Okay? If I don't, and I go to start going into a Sumigaeshi action, now she just posts her hand out and I can't take my partner over. So I always go here, like so. Now, as she goes elbow inside, I go Sumigaeshi. When she goes to post, I go down to the wrist. Now this makes a follow-up Sumigaeshi very easy. Okay. In addition, I go inside with the V grip because now if my partner steps over into half guard, her next step is always going to be move to the head. She goes underhook and tries to go to a crossface. If I have no V grip, I can't stop the crossface. So the V grip has two purposes. Number one, it allows you to switch to the wrist to hit a successful Sumigaeshi without your partner posting. And it allows you to deny her head control when she goes to move. If she does step over into half guard, she can't get control of my head. And it gives me time now to go into further off, push your knee out, further off balances to bring everything back inside. Okay, so she goes tight waist. We go overhook like so. And we put a V grip inside my partner's elbow. As she goes to flatten me out from here, we bring the hand to the outside, or the foot rather to the outside. Now, as she goes to post, we gather the wrist. What she needs is to post out here above my shoulder line. So we catch the wrist. And now, as we have the wrist, we go from the V grip on the elbow to the wrist. When she goes to start facing, I pull the wrist in, and we can start to elevate with the Sumigaeshi. Okay? So when she goes tight waist, her ability to succeed is completely contingent upon her ability to put the elbow inside the knee, walk your knee away from your elbow and chest, and then step over into half guard. So before she traps her leg in between, I use a V grip to shoot my foot to the outside instead of in between her legs and go to immediate off balance with the Sumigaeshi, falling to the hip and then recovering. And even if we don't hit the Sumigaeshi, and we just get her off balance from here, there's so much space now, there's no reason why I can't pommel back inside, and now I can start to reclaim the inside position, so when she goes to use a tight waist anymore, she can't, okay? So immediate off balances from her using double underhooks, her using over-under, her using double over, and her using a tight waist, okay? And how she locks is going to be completely contingent upon your hand position, your elbow position relative to your body. If your elbow position is here, and she locks double unders, like so. If your arm position is here, she locks over under. If your elbow position is here, she locks double over. Okay? And if your hand position is in a situation where one elbow's open, she can choose to go tight waist. If you're here, she goes to go tight waist, she just gives you an underhook. Okay, because now her hands aren't locked, she has no ability to actually crush her underhook down. All right, just her arm versus mine, and I can easily off balance from here. All right, but if one arm's open, now she can go tight waist. If one arm's open, now she can go tight waist. Okay, if two arms are open, then she can go tight waist. All right, so how you play and how your partner plays and how you react is going to be contingent upon what your elbow positioning is relative to your body. All right, and then the second she goes to come in and lock the hands in various ways or use tight waist, we have to hit an immediate off balance so she can't flatten us out, pin the hips square to the floor, and then step over into half guard. All right, now let's look at the next step where a partner flattens us out. How can we forward shift and create angle? Okay, again, if she can keep my hips square along the floor, she's going to be successful. If I can create angle falling to a hip, I'm going to be successful. Okay, so she initially locks double unders, she pulls everything in, and she flattens me out. Okay, when I'm in this position here, she wants to keep my hips square until she can force a leg over into a half guard. Okay, what I want to do is forward shift. If she pulls her knees and her elbows together, and I go to just extend my legs, you're never going to sit anybody up from here. Okay, so what I want is to be in a situation where I have two hands over my partner's triceps, and I can pull the knees and elbows away to some degree. Okay, when she pulls her elbows down, I'm not going to pull someone strong. I'm not going to be able to pull the elbows up with someone who's very strong. Okay, but what I can do is I can start slight forward momentum, where then I can kick my partner away and sit up into a seated position. Okay, so if I just push my legs away, it'll never work. What I want is to pull my knees to my chest over my head and to lift my partner's elbows away from her knees. So when she goes to hold on strong from here, we forward shift like so. And now we're in a situation where as she goes to flatten me out again, we can immediately off balance my partner and go into at least recoveries and then counterattacks. Okay. So my goal is to forward shift, and I do this by having two hands over my partner's elbows and triceps like so that I can pull my partner's elbows away from her knees, use that forward momentum to sit my partner forward. So it's a combination of the knees coming forwards towards my chest over my head, my hands pulling the elbows away from the knees. So when she goes to lock up tight, if I just try to push away, there's nothing. Okay? So as she goes to lock on tight, I just pull the elbows up, I pull the knees up, we forward shift, and then immediately bring the head offline. Okay? Now the obvious question is, what if I can't pull my partner's knees away from the elbows to forward shift? For example, if my partner's here and has her hand locked over, okay, now when I go to forward shift and she goes to lock on tight, it's hard because I can't get that forward momentum pulling the elbows forwards. Okay? Whenever I see this, whether it be one arm under, two arms under, I would have to free this arm. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to look to do is take a cross shoulder post like so. So now my partner goes to progress forward and keep my elbow trapped. I can manage distance. And now from here, I just raise my right shoulder. I turn my right thumb down towards the floor, and then I pull my elbow back. And then now from here, we're ready to go. So if my partner's over an elbow, and I feel like I'm having a hard time pulling this elbow up, especially if my partner's passing now to a situation where all the weight's on the elbow and I feel like I can't get it out. Whenever I see this, we take a hand in, we go cross shoulder. So I can start to make some kind of distance. Now, if I just try to pull the elbow out from here, it's going to be difficult. So I take my thumb, I turn it down towards the floor, lock tight. I turn it down towards the floor, and it comes out. Okay? When she goes to lock on tight, if I try to just pull the thumb facing up, you'll never get it out. So I turn the thumb down, I pull everything out. Now I can pull the elbows away from the knees and forward shift. Okay? If we contrast this, where both of my arms are trapped now. She goes to start flattening me out. Okay, now this is an issue. All right? Because now it's going to be difficult for me to forward shift and I can't cross shoulder post. When I see this, I'm going to look to start angling my partner out just a little bit towards one side. Now you have to understand this will aid your partner in being able to step over your leg into a half guard. But I need to be able to free my arms to forward shift. Okay? So whenever I see this, I'm just going to start to elevate my partner by using a left leg extension out to one side. Okay? Now, yes, my knee does come down towards the floor, so if she's quick, she'll step over my knee, force me into a half guard. This is no good enough because both my arms are trapped. So I shift out to one side, and I keep my knee the best I can connected to my partner's rib cage. So when she goes to step over, she can't. Okay? This change in angle will allow me to take my top hand, which is my right hand in this case, into a belly down position, or to a thumb down position,
keep the hands locked, to a thumb down position, slide the elbow free, and now from here we can go cross shoulder. Now what I want to do is to scoot back under my partner, turn the thumb down, and extract the arm. Okay? So she locks over. If I stay square from here, I go to forward shift and she's tight, it's going to be impossible. If I go to free my arms from here, it's going to be impossible. So instead, I angle my partner out to one side. Okay? If I want to go to my right side this time, I use a right leg extension. We just create a slight angle. Now I do the best job I can of keeping my right knee up so she can't step over the knee and force me into a half guard. Okay? Now from here, we turn the thumb down. If I just try to pull it out, it's going to be impossible. So I turn the left thumb down towards the floor. I pull it free, then we go cross shoulder. Okay, now all the weight's on my right elbow. So what I try to do, best job I can of, is forcing my partner back to square, like so. If you cannot force your partner back to square, it's not that big of a deal because you do have a cross shoulder post. So when she goes to hold you here, I can turn the thumb down and I can eventually wiggle my arm free. And now from here we can forward shift and go into all of our off balances. Okay. So how can we forward shift and how can we recover the hands when they're trapped to get two hands on the back of the triceps to forward shift? Okay, this is super important, and there's different ways that you have to free your hands depending on how they're trapped. Okay. If your partner has a tight waist, there's no need to forward shift because she doesn't have locked hands. So you can just immediately go into sumigechis. Like if your partner flattens you out here and she's here, I just take an overhook and I monitor this hand. Okay, so now before she goes to force me into a half guard, I just go into off balances. Instead of forward shifting, we just go right into a sumigechi because the hands aren't locked. We're in a little bit different position from here. Okay, so forward shifting, freeing hands from over under and from her having double overs, and then forward shifting into all of our counterattacks. All right, so let's look at a situation where I talked about before, where you kind of see two people stalemating, where one person's stuck on their back, they can't forward shift, but the other person can't step over a knee. All right, so she flattens me out. And this is, again, another important reason why we need to have two hands free. We can't allow our partners to trap our hands underneath their arms. Okay, they need to have two post hands. So if at any point my partner goes to, I can't forward shift right away, my partner goes to forward shift, or not forward shift, goes to step over into a half guard, I can't allow her to just go over the knee and beat me from here. All right, so I have to make sure that I have a free hand to post the knee. So whenever my partner goes to step over my knee, I can stop her leg from getting just over my knee. Okay, and this is when things start to go bad. So I want to make sure I use a thumb post inside my partner's knee like so. So when she goes to step over, she can't. Okay. Now the bad news is if your partner's right in front of you on two knees, if you have a big strong partner in front of you who knows what they're doing, it's going to be hard to forward shift just with a simple basic pull the elbows forward shift. The good news is that your partner eventually has to step over a knee, which means they have to raise the hips to some degree to forward shift. So I play a timing game where I wait for my partner to start moving around trying to step over knees, and then I time the forward shift. Okay, so I play a patience game where I just block knees, and then when I feel the time is right, now I can forward shift. Okay, this is going to be a sensitivity thing. You have to be here a lot in order to get the timing down, but it really is just a timing and experience thing. Okay, so when your partner goes to move, I feel like, okay, now I have space to forward shift. Now is the time to forward shift. Okay. Usually, it's when your partner has high hips. Okay, the lower your partner's hips are and the closer her knees are to her elbows, the harder it's going to be for me to forward shift. So I play a game where she goes to walk side to side, she goes to step over my knees, I'm blocking. I play here. And then, when I'm ready to go, I forward shift, and now we can get the head offline. Okay? So, whether she starts in any of the various starting positions, I free my hands and I get to this starting position here. I want to have two hands available to grab triceps and post knees. As she gets to start stepping over my legs, I always block, like so. And now I wait until an opportunity where her hips are high enough where I can forward shift, and now we can immediately go into counter attacks and off balances and get the hands to unlock. Okay,
So we play a patience game where we wait until our partner starts to get overzealous, trying to step over the knee into a half guard. And then when the hips are high, we use a timing method where we forward shift our partner and then immediately off bounds to go into all of our follow-ups. All right, so let's say our partner forced us into a situation where we have a cross shin, a shin that goes across my partner's hips, and she steals the inside position and forces me to have 2 feet outside. Okay, what I want is to have 2 feet inside. What she wants is to have, best case scenario for her, 2 feet outside. Okay, I don't really know what's worse, having her force my 2 feet to the outside or stepping into half guard, because they're both just equally miserable as far as trying to retain guard. But we'll start with this and then we'll move into getting forced into a half guard. All right, so she has a body lock, and this time, however she pommels her legs, she pommels to a situation where I have a foot on the outside. Okay, so usually what will happen is I'll have a body lock, I'll flatten the person out, and then I'll bring a knee to the center line, like so, and I'll clear butterfly hook and replace. So now the shin's across my hips, and she has 2 feet on the outside. Like so. Okay? Now she has no inside foot position, and now it's easy for me to step over a knee, but not into half guard. She has no ability to lock a half guard from here, because her leg's not in the middle. She has the outside foot position. So it's easy for me to just walk by now and go right into a pass. All right, so this is pretty bad for the bottom person. So she gets me into a situation where I have a cross shin, and from here, okay, what can I do now? The first thing I have to make sure of is my partner does not step over my knee. If my partner steps over my knee, you're gonna get passed from here. There's no way around it. Okay, so when I feel my partner goes to step over my knee, I have to take a hand to the inside of my partner's knee, just as we did before, to make sure when she goes to step, she absolutely cannot get over my knee. Okay, this is number one. The second thing I'm looking for, she's gonna be trying to step, so she's a leg up, trying to step over my knee. The second thing I'm looking for is to find a way to insert my left leg back as a butterfly hook. Okay? There's no way that I can get my right leg back as a butterfly hook without inverting my right knee and pulling this leg through. Okay, but if I invert this right knee, just as I do that, she steps over, and now I can't pull the knee out this way anymore, so I'm just gonna get passed. So my left leg now is pretty much my only hook. All right? Whenever I see this, I block the knee and I create an extension with my right leg. This will give me some ability to move my hips out and away from my partner. Now keep in mind, she's gonna be tight with this elbow. So what it'll look like when she goes to lock up tight is something like this. I'll only be able to move a small amount. Now I replace my right foot with my left foot. So I pull my right heel to my butt the best I can, and I insert my left leg as a butterfly hook. My partner goes to step over my knee, she can't. When my partner goes to force my left foot to the outside, I have a sticky butterfly hook again. And now from here I can pull my foot back in, I can return my partner to the center, I'll get forward shift and start to go into work. Okay? So when I feel my partners beat me, and she has a cross post, or she has a cross shin. First and foremost, I stop the knee from coming over. So I immediately take a thumb post inside. Now when she goes to step over into half guard, it's not an easy thing. Now I extend my right leg, move my hips out the best I can. Now I quickly replace my right foot with my left foot, because the further my heel comes to my butt, the more my knee comes down to the floor. Okay, even if it's just a little bit, that's all she needs. If she clears his hand, now she can go right over. Whereas if my foot's high, even if she clears the hand, go ahead, it still takes her a little bit of time to get over my knee. Okay? So what I want is my left foot right next to my right foot. Okay, almost foot over foot, so that the second my right foot comes down, my left foot slips in. As my right foot comes down and my heel comes to my butt, my left foot slides into space. Now when she goes to step over my knee, it's too late and I can pull my leg free and make space. Okay? The reason why I can do this now is because I can use an extension with my left foot to make some space and then insert my butterfly hook. Now we come back to center, we forward shift and we play a game where we off balance and get our partner's head moving to one side. Okay, so our partner forces us into a cross shin where we have 2 feet outside. How can we get feet back to the inside, forward shift, and start our counters? All right, so now let's look at an opponent who forced us into butterfly half guard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard to recover from here because, like I said, because your partner has such good control of your hips, it makes it pretty easy for them to actually pass your legs from here. All right. Now, that does score as a guard pass, but they can't really do anything with it once they pass your legs unless they fight to the upper body inside position. But as far as just getting past your legs and passing your guard, it's going to be pretty hard to recover from here. But there are some options. All right, my partner flattens me out. Let's go on this side. With a body lock into a butterfly half guard. Okay, like so. All right, now it's gonna be rough from here. All right, my goal is to find myself in a situation where I can bring my right knee back to the inside position. Okay, I'm not gonna hit any counters from a butterfly half guard. I basically need to get back to my starting position where I bring the right knee back inside, and then I can forward shift and go into my counters. Okay, if my partner can pike up off the knees, put a butterfly hook in, it's going to be hard from here. Okay, if my partner can can pike up and can hip switch past this butterfly hook, you're going to get past. Okay, so you have to make sure you have a sticky butterfly hook with my left leg in this case. So my partner goes to start piking up from here, I can make space to put a knee inside. Okay, you have to understand that your partner pretty much has to start piking up in order to put a butterfly hook in. Okay, if your partner from here tries to just pommel a butterfly hook in, the one good news that you have in this position is that your partner has a body lock, so the base of support is compromised. Okay, the base of support is very small between the elbows. So if your partner goes to pommel a butterfly hook in from here, it's pretty easy to off balance your partner and bring a knee back inside. Okay, that's about the only piece of good news that you have from here. Okay, and the fact that you have the butterfly hook in place. So my partner's pretty much limited to an insertion where she has to pike up first. Now she's a wide base of support with her legs, where now she can pommel in, and when I go to off balance, it's going to be difficult from here. So knowing this, I need to make sure that my partner goes to start building height. I don't allow her to insert a butterfly hook right away. Okay? So as she goes to start building height, I follow her hips with my right knee. You see my right knee is towards the floor here. When she goes to start building up and coming off the knees, I bring my right knee up the best I can. So when she goes to pommel a butterfly hook in, she can't. Okay? Now, there's a critical moment when my partner goes to pommel a butterfly hook in and her foot comes off the floor. The reason why I cannot off balance her from here is because her base of support is so wide at the lower body because her feet are spread out. So when I go to off balance her from here, I can't. But at some point, she has to pommel a butterfly hook in. So as she goes to do that, I hit the off balance. And then from here, whether she brings the knee down to the floor or she just posts her foot back out, so she goes to pommel, and then her foot posts, this will give me the space I need to bring my right knee back inside. And now from here, we can forward shift and play our game. Okay? So when I see my partner forces me to a butterfly half guard. Okay? And I forgot to mention this actually. You can pretty much always ensure that you land in a butterfly half guard when your partner starts to hip switch and force you into a half guard. There's no reason why you should land in a half guard like this, okay? Because now you don't have any inside position and no real ability to off balance your partner. All right. When your partner starts to step into a half guard, so either one, just step over and you're lazy and you lose the knee position and you have a foot inside, or two, she'll sprawl her leg across to clear butterfly hook first, then you'll trap a leg, and then she'll step over. The thing is, there's no reason why I can't just pommel the left leg butterfly hook back in place. If we rotate, when my partner goes to sprawl her leg by, yeah, she's cleared by butterfly hook. Now I chase my partner into a half guard. Now she steps over my knee, okay, but I can just bring my heel to my butt, catch, and now she goes to recover. my butterfly hook comes into place. Okay, so as my partner sprawls by, like so, if I don't chase a half guard with my partner, what happens is my partner just pommels my foot to the outside. It slips in here, but now she can't step over my knee just yet. Okay? If I bring my knee away from my chest and chase a half guard, my partner can't pass my guard right away, but my knee comes away from my chest so she can step into half guard. But I can always put a butterfly half guard in place, where now at least I have an inside foot and I can start to go into off balances from here. So it's pretty easy to always maintain a butterfly half guard when your partner's passing from a body lock. Okay, the question is, how can I not get passed once my partner moves into a butterfly half guard? And that's a pretty interesting question. Okay, so right now I can't off balance my partner because my hips are pinned and she has a decent base of support with her knees spread out. If she tries to pommel a butterfly hook in from here, her knee has to come towards me and then she can pommel a butterfly hook in. This will compromise the base of support and her hips will come high. Go ahead. They can off balance their partner and bring a knee inside. So my partner's pretty much limited from here to standing entries where she pommels a butterfly hook in place. So as she goes to stand up and go into a tripod, from this position, I want to make sure that she can't just pommel a butterfly hook in. Okay? If she pommels a butterfly hook in from here, I'm going to get passed. Okay, there's no way around it. Okay? So from this position, I'm going to look to keep my knee high initially. And now I can't off balance her because the base support is wide between her 2 feet. So I wait for the critical moment when my partner goes to pommel a butterfly hook in and her base support is compromised. Okay? When I see that, I just off balance out to my right. I slide the right knee back in place. And now my partner goes to move around from here. We forward shift, and then we go into all of our counter offense. Okay, so our partner forces us into a butterfly half guard. It's looking pretty grim, but there are things we can do to recover. And we use timing-based methods. My partner has a compromised base of support, trying to fight a butterfly hook in place, where we can bring a knee back to the inside position, forward shift, and go into our counters. All right, so let's say that your partner forces you to a butterfly half guard and they pass your guard. Okay. Now, like I said, it's much easier for them to actually get past your legs and past your guard with a body lock. But to actually do anything with it, and again, I'm defining a guard pass as we're past our partner's legs and we can start to control them and attack submissions. Okay. The only way that you can control and attack submissions on someone from side control or from mount is by controlling the head and shoulders. Okay, so we can use this to our advantage. If my partner passes me, she has a body lock, she forces me into a half guard, a butterfly half guard, and she passes me. There's many ways that she can do this. If I have a butterfly half guard, for example, and she pikes up and she punches a butterfly hook in, okay, from here it's going to be pretty easy for her to keep this leg pinned and then hip switch and then pass me from here. If she forces me into a half guard and I have this and I can't insert a butterfly hook, and it's going to be hard to insert a butterfly hook from here because I can't move my hips, and she pikes up and she puts a butterfly hook in and now she knee slides through, it's going to be rough for me to try to recover from here. Okay, so if you can't get a butterfly hook in, okay, and you messed up and your partner forces you into half guard and you feel like, or you do pommel a butterfly hook in and she just hip switches past it, you don't have sticky hooks, and you're just like, okay, my partner's past my legs, what should I do here? Okay. Whenever I see this, the first thing I'm going to look to do with my hands, my partner moves me into a situation like so, is I'm going to look to take a cross shoulder, a forearm frame like so, and I'm look to take an inside elbow relative to my partner's shoulder. Okay. So if she's coming forward towards me, there's no way I can pommel the inside elbow first. If I go cross shoulder, I make space, and now I bring an inside elbow in. Okay. So this is my starting position here. Now, the whole time this is going on, I'm looking to pommel my legs inside and adjust accordingly, okay? So as she's looking to move from here, I'm looking to go in and pommel my legs in and, try to get into a situation where I can get my knee back inside. Provided she actually passes me, okay, and she gets past my legs, yes, she will score from here, but she can't actually attack me from here, okay? You have the luxury of knowing from bottom position that before your partner can start attacking you and actually progress to a north-south or to your back or to mount or to a submission, that they have to move from your hips to your head. So the hands have to come unlocked. Because you have the inside position, the second the hands come unlocked and she goes to control your head, I'm now in this perfect position to go into the same recovery as we looked at before, inverting the right knee, getting to a side guard, and now we can go into recoveries right from here. Okay? So yes, your guard is technically passed, but your partner cannot attack you from here. So you get past, and then the second your partner goes to recover, or it goes to start progressing forwards, you just recover. Okay? Half the time, it's not even worth expending the amount of energy trying to off balance and do crazy herky jerky bridges and look to pummel butterfly hooks back in when your partner flattens you into a half guard with a body lock. It's not even worth the energy half the time. Okay, there's only very specific times where you'd have to really go berserk to try to not get past. Like if you're in the last 30 seconds of a competition or something, and you can't get scored on, otherwise you'll lose. Okay, but the amount of people watching this video that will be in those situations are pretty low. Okay, I know most of you guys don't compete, and if you're practicing and training, or in a submission only match where the guard passes don't really matter, it's much easier to just get your guard passed a lot of the times and then recover knowing that your partner has to move to the head before they can attack you. Okay, so just understand tactically where I'm coming from here. So I find myself in a situation where however we get in, my partner body locks me and she's looking to go into a pass. Okay, the first thing I'm doing is looking to bring my hands inside. What I can't have is her getting past my legs, and now right from here, she goes to an underhook and she moves to either double underhooks or an underhook and a crossface. And now she successfully passed my legs. Then she blew right by my inside position hands and fought to control the head. This is no good. Okay. So the second I feel her flatten me out from this position, whether it be butterfly half guard, she has a body lock, I'm immediately looking to bring hands inside. So we go cross shoulder, inside elbow. Okay. We just play here. Now, the second she goes to pass, I'm looking to pommel legs inside and off bounce. If I can't, no problem. From this position, I know that my partner has to come forwards to control my head and shoulders. Okay? There's no other way around this, I promise you. Okay? The second she unlocks her hands, we create space and we go inside shoulder. So I have the inside elbow relative to the shoulder to inside forearm versus bicep. So I go to an inside bicep tie with a forearm frame. The second my partner goes to come forward towards me, I just look to start shrimping out to invert my right or my left knee and connect the knee and the elbow to a side guard. When she goes to start pressuring forwards into me from here, I dominate all the inside real estate, and thus I can easily recover and start to go into various counterattacks into my partner. Okay? So whenever I feel like I'm just beat from here and my partner passes me, understand that your partner can pass you, but she doesn't have control of your head. Okay? The second she goes to start moving to control of your head, you can easily escape. Okay? And this is true also from a situation where your partner tries to move into a mounted situation. When she's a body lock, she can move to side control. She can also move to mount. Okay? If for whatever reason, let's say I'm caught in a situation where she's a body lock, I'm caught in half guard, and I don't have a butterfly hook, for example, okay, where she beats me, and I'm just dead to right, she puts a butterfly hook in, and okay, she's going to beat me from the situation. Now she pikes up, and instead of driving into side control, she drives to mount. Okay. Yes, she's technically mounted me, but she has no control over my head and shoulders yet. Okay. So my partner goes to start passing into mount. I do the same thing. I take the inside elbow and cross shoulder post. Now when my partner drives to mount, we're in a situation like so. Now the second my partner goes to move to my head, we can immediately look to take elbows inside of our partner's knees and go into immediate knee-elbow escapes. So when she goes to control my head with the cross face, the cross shoulder post stops her. And now from here, I have all the inside upper body position, upper body inside position. When she goes to control me, there's no reason why I can't just bring these back inside. And as she goes to come forward towards my head, that's when the escape happens. Okay? If she mounts me and she keeps the body lock, how can she attack me from here? The only way that she can start to attack me and start to really threaten submissions is by coming forward to the head. There's no way around this. She lets go of the hands. She moves up to double underhooks, for example. And now I'm in real danger where she can start attacking me. Okay?
Now I'm technically mounted, I'm technically have my guard passed, but how can my partner attack me? She can't. I have all the inside position. So the second she goes to attack, and there's, again, a million ways to escape, right? But I'm just giving you the ideas to work with here, okay? Before your partner can move to the head to start attacking you, go ahead. Try to get under her crossface. There's no reason why we can't go right into an escape, okay? And there's, again, you can do knee elbow escapes, you can do inside knee elbow escapes, you can do tipping escapes, you can do all kinds of escapes from here, okay? But the ideas remain the same. If your partner passes you with a body lock, understand that before they can really attack you and start to go into submissions where they control you and then submit you, they have to move to control of your head and shoulders, okay? And you, as the bottom person, know this, meaning that if you steal the upper body inside position, even though they're past your legs and technically past your guard, they're not really past your guard. Okay, and you can go back and watch the Hamlo match as a clear example of this. All right, Nikki Rod versus Yuri, clear example of this. There's no control over the head and shoulders. Okay, so the bottom person knowing this knows that as the top person goes from the hips to control the head to start progressing through positional hierarchy, control, and then submission, you can easily bring everything back inside as they make the transition, the intermediary step between controlling the hips and controlling the head and shoulders. And you have to understand this as the bottom player, because if your partner's controlling your hips, the pass is going to come easy. But it's what happens after the pass that counts. Okay, if your partner can get to the head and shoulders, control and submit you, you've lost the match. If you can recover and go right back into counterattacks, you're still in the game. Okay, so the idea is, if your partner passes your legs with a body lock, controlling your hips, keep the upper body inside position through a cross shoulder post and an inside elbow. And as they go to make this switch, you steal the inside real estate first at the upper body, and then you make space to steal the inside real estate at the lower body, and then you can go into your counterattacks. All right, so now we're going to move into half guard passing, all right, where our partner usually moves from a body lock into a half guard, so it kind of makes sense. Or if your partner just flattens you out from a half guard from any other various position. Okay, we're going to talk about, number one, what our opponent needs to achieve in order to pass us with body locks, which is my partner needs to control my hips initially. My partner needs to put me flat on my back. My partner needs to keep my hips square to the floor, and it needs to, one, either get two of my feet to the outside position by going cross shin and stepping into a side control, or two, forcing me into a half guard and then either passing from there or moving to the upper body. If my partner can achieve that, she's going to be winning these exchanges. All right. What I need is to stop my partner from locking the hands, either by controlling, one of her arms or both of her arms in various ways, by putting so much mass between myself and my partner through various forms of inside position that my partner can actually lock the hands. Okay. And then if my partner does lock the hands, I need to hit constant off balances and fall to one hip or the other, to hit constant kazushis to go into counterattacks by forcing my partner to base hands out on the floor. Okay, or if she doesn't base hands out, then she just falls over. Okay, provided my partner does flatten me out, I need to forward shift, free my hands if they're trapped, forward shift, and then go into counterattacks from there. And if I do get past, you have to understand, if my partner passes me with a body lock, they have to move to the head and shoulders before they can go into attacks. Okay, so we can take advantage of this, keeping the inside position, and then recovering as they go to chase the head and the shoulders. Okay. Two, we're going to talk about why didn't we go over retention versus side body locks. Okay, so for those of you who have watched the side body lock instructional, sorry, not side body lock instructional, the guard passing instructional, saw that there were side body locks in there. Okay, and the answer is simple, because it creates too much back exposure. If your partner body locks you and immediately outflanks you, you have to give some degree of back exposure in order to recover. Okay, and this is not the philosophy I teach when we're retaining guard. Okay, it's better to get past and then recover than just to give any kind of back exposure. Okay, especially if you're getting past and you still have the upper body inside position. So if my partner passes with a side body lock, she flanks me to the side. Okay, most of the time this happens where she's seated in front of me.
and she'll post a hand in the hip, for example. Post a hand in the hip, for example. She'll post a hand in the knee, and now she'll just pop up and she'll just shoot my legs to the side, and she'll end up in a side body lock. Okay? If she has a head inside body lock, I can recover if I have an elbow inside, but this requires me to start turning away from my partner, okay, rather than put my back on the floor. So when she goes to pass me, I can recover by bringing an elbow inside. But I have to start moving so far away from my partner that I start to turn my back. So if she manages to circle around, move your hips behind me, and beat my elbow, now you get back exposure. This is no good. You're much better off the second your partner gets to a side body lock with the inside head position, just falling down and accepting side control. And then taking advantage of the fact that when she goes to move towards your head, I have the inside position and I can recover. Okay? Another reason why we didn't go over side body locks, again, even if my partner has to head to the outside, it's because, again, I have to create some kind of back exposure. Okay, if my partner has head to the outside, I have to start moving into a situation where I start coming up to my knees, and we have a whole series that we can do from here. But if your partner drives the head across to the far shoulder, now there's back exposure. Okay, so you're much better in a situation where your partner has either side body lock, and you just fall to the bottom with the inside position. Okay, and again, it's the same as when your partner passes you with traditional body locks. You just steal the inside position with the upper body, so when your partner goes to make a transition to the head and arm, you can easily recover. Okay, so if she has head outside body lock, we just come through and we take an inside elbow and we just put her back on the floor. The second we're out flank from here, I don't want to create back exposure. So the second she goes out flanking with a side body lock, I just throw my back to the floor, and now as my partner goes to recover, I go inside elbow and cross shoulder. When she goes to recover from here and moves to my head, we bring everything back inside. She goes head inside body lock. Again, we just immediately bring everything inside with the inside shoulder. So now I bring my back to the floor, I go cross shoulder, and when she goes to recover and moves my head from here, we just bring everything inside. Okay, so I didn't want to be redundant. That's why we didn't go over side body locking, okay? With the head to the outside, head to the inside. There are ways to recover without actually technically getting your guard passed and getting scored on, but you do create a large amount of back exposure. And I want to get you guys out of the habit of creating back exposure to avoid guard passes. Just accept the pass and then recover next. Recover when your partner goes to move and fight to control your limbs. All right. Getting past the side control north-south is a lot, or mount, is a lot better than creating back exposure. The guy takes your backs, he scores the maximum amount of points, and next thing you know, you're in an asymmetrical fighting position where your partner's behind you and you have zero offense of any kind, and you get body triangled and you get stuck there for long amounts of time and then get finished. Okay, just put your back on the floor, recover after your partner passes, and continue the match. Okay, don't create back exposure.